Hi, I'm Adam Meyer of Mill City Lutheran in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and in this video we're going to have more of a discussion rather than doing a repair about keeping your guitars properly humidified. Now, I am not against case humidifiers. I'll probably title this video in some way that kind of draws attention. You definitely need a case humidifier if you live in a part of the country or the world where you have dry environments. Here in Minnesota, it gets extremely dry in the winter. Everybody should have a case humidifier, but what I'm saying is that a case humidifier alone is not enough. You need a supplemental humidifier for the room or your entire house, and that's what this discussion is going to be about. So a little backstory about me. I've been in business on my own since January 1st, 2020. Before that, I used to work at a repair shop that did warranty service for a lot of different brands. And I'm bringing that up because you may own a Martin, Gibson, Seagull, whatever brand, and I'd answer the phone all the time and people would be saying, I just called Martin, I have a top crack, and they gave me your phone number to call to have my guitar repaired. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that won't be covered by warranty. Your guitar drying out, having a top crack, the bridge pulling off, there's problems with the necks, frets spraying out the sides. You're supposed to maintain your guitar, so that's not going to be covered by warranty. Just because you call the factory it was made at and they tell you to call a warranty service center, that does not mean it's covered by warranty. They're just recommending that you take it there to get it repaired. So that right there. Now, get back to the case humidifier. There are some really fancy cases out there that are airtight, that can keep moisture inside the case. That is a rare instance. So you put a little case humidifier inside your case and then put it inside a really dry room. That humidifier is not only trying to humidify your guitar, but since your case is not airtight, it's slowly also trying to humidify the rest of the room. It's the moisture is dissipating once it leaves the case. So that's why you need to have a room humidifier. All right, so I've got my demonstration guitar here. I don't have a guitar in the shop at this time to give examples of damage from humidity, but just as you can see here, we've got an acoustic guitar, we got the back cut off so you can see inside. The walls here, the sides, the top, they're all really thin. Moisture that's supposed to stay in there can get drawn out very easily because it's such thin wood. Now we've got our neck block here. This is a nice big hunk of wood. The moisture does not come out of it anywhere as quickly as your sides. So what you can have happen is all the thin woods of your top shrink, but the neck block doesn't. What happens when that happens, the symptom you get is your action goes down a lot and all the wood around the neck block shrinks, and as you're playing up the neck, getting close in this area, all of a sudden everything starts to fret out. You'll be at maybe like the ninth fret and you're still getting the pitch that's up here next to the body. You're going up and down and it's not changing. That's because everything has shrunk around the neck block. That's a really bad sign. You want to find somebody in your area to try and rehumidify the guitar to get it to bounce back. I end up setting up a humidity booth in my shop to do this, and you want it done slowly. So there are things that I gotta warn you, never do. You'll read online, people say put your guitar inside a big plastic bag with some sponges. Never do that. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to humidify too fast, plus you can also cause some mold growth in your guitar. Do not do that. You want it controlled. I have an old video that I'll probably post a link to where I display the humidity booth. And I use a small humidifier. I've got a gauge inside, and you just gradually raise the humidity inside a little past the normal range to get the guitar to slowly recover. Sometimes you cannot get these things corrected. Sometimes you can. You just, if you have a guitar that, like I said, with the fretting out issue, you're just going to have to leave it with the shop for a little while and let them try to slowly bring it back to life. It may not get there, but it might. If it does work, then great. You're not having to buy a new guitar. Another issue is if you sight across the top. Flat top guitars are not perfectly flat. They should be pretty close to flat. One issue is right here in front of the bridge. If it starts to sink in a lot, that's another sign that your guitar has dried out too much. You'll end up with the bridge here. You kind of imagine it pivoting forward, but then it also goes down because the wood is no longer strong enough. It doesn't have the moisture inside to hold itself up against the string tension, and your bridge ends up going forward and down into the guitar. That brings your strings down too far. You're fretting out, you're having those problems. You may get lucky and have where a brace cracks. That's a little easier to take care of because once you kind of push that brace back, that will push the top back out. But you will probably also need some humidity booth time in order to revive everything. Now, those of you who are watching this who may have a case humidifier and you're not sure if you're in an area that needs this extra humidifier or not, probably the first thing you need is a humidity gauge. You can buy these for pretty cheap, stores, online, wherever. I recommend getting maybe at least 2 of them, just so you can kind of compare, keep one on the side of the room, maybe keep one in the case, just to have an idea how things are going. Ideally, you want your humidity to be between 45 and 55%. Here in Minnesota, we get to late January, it is really hard to maintain that. I have room humidifiers that will humidify my shop area, but once we get into late January, I end up having to run 2. I'm running them all day and all night. I've got a bunch of customers' instruments here, so I have to protect them because if they get damaged when they're in my care, that's a really big problem. So you need to maintain, you need to monitor where you're at. We're at 49% right now. It just snowed overnight, so I had to turn up my humidifiers early in the morning. Now we say 45 to 55%, that's the ideal. If you do slip below that, it's not a point to start worrying and getting all panicky. It's more the fluctuation. If your guitars are going from 45% environment and then to 30% back and forth over and over, like within the same day, that expansion and contraction in the wood from the moisture leaving and then going back into the wood, that's a problem. So if you're trying to maintain your guitar and you can't quite get to 45%, if you can stay steady at maybe like 40%, you should be fine. I'm not saying that you are fine. You should be fine as long as it's not spiking up and down. If you can maintain and keep a nice even humidity, you should be fine. Now, I'm doing videos about guitars, but something that a lot of people don't realize is, let's say a professional violinist, cello players, so on, extremely expensive instruments. They're traveling all around the world with them. They're trying to maintain everything really well. When they get home, they want to not have any issues with their instruments expanding, contracting, because you have such a thin shellac finish, the hide glue and everything. That's all gonna, not react the same as a sturdy built guitar. So what they do, they're playing in concert halls where the humidity is low. If they're playing in small rehearsal places where the humidity is low, they will maintain their instruments a little bit low so that you don't have that back and forth. They're not going from 50% conditions to 30%. If they're in the studios, concert halls, wherever, where the humidity is down like mid-30s, they'll maintain their instruments down more like around that 40%. I do not say that you should try this. Once again, disclaimer with this video, it's about the wild fluctuation. You want to get close to that 45 to 55. If you can't quite get there, just keep it steady. So now you're going to ask, well, why was somebody pressuring me so much to buy that case humidifier? You absolutely need the case humidifier. If you keep your guitar in your house with a room humidifier or furnace humidifier and everything's fine, and then you put it in your case and you go somewhere for the evening or overnight, whatever, then your guitar is getting that sudden shock of being possibly dried out too much. So you at least need a case humidifier for travel, going to rehearsal, or going to play shows. You want to get your guitar back into the case with the humidifier when you're done playing it. So this is the kind of humidifier that I use to keep everything maintained in my shop. I don't have to worry about having something that looks nice to match the decor or anything. I like this because it doesn't have a jug that I have to keep clean. Some have these removable bottles. You go and take those to wherever and refill them. This one, I can just take a bucket and dump a bunch of water here in the front. I can then take it apart and scrub it out inside. It's really easy to maintain. That's why I like this. I end up having to run 2 of these when we get really deep into winter because it gets so dry here in Minnesota. One of these does not do the job alone. And also remember that they're called wicks. You need to replace these on a regular basis, at least once a year. You can stretch out the life of them a little bit by soaking them in a 50-50 mix of white vinegar and water. But if you're doing that, you got to replace at least once a year. That's a minimum that I do. Sometimes it's, well, quite often, more often than that. I have my second humidifier. That one's definitely just once a year because it's only being used half the time. But you'll want to keep an eye on the filter and make sure that it's not getting discolored or having any buildup on it. An evaporative humidifier would be the best for a situation with musical instruments, but there is a wide selection and many sizes to suit what would fit your situation best. You will also need water treatment with your humidifier, so make sure you find what best suits your situation. So let's say you've got multiple guitars, only one of them is showing humidity issues, being dried out. Well, first of all, they're made from different pieces of wood. So, yeah, they're just different. They're going to react differently. The other thing is when you're monitoring where you have your instruments, make sure to go around, check around your windows that you don't have any drafts coming in. Don't set your guitars in front of a heat register or next to a radiator because the air is going to be much drier in that area, even if you have a humidifier in the room. You need the guitars to be away from those direct sources because you can end up with a dry air current coming across and hitting one instrument really hard and your others are a few feet away. Yeah, you're going to have that one guitar react differently than the others. So make sure to check where you're keeping things. Look around the room, just plan it out, little common sense. In my shop area, I've even put up the plastic insulation over my windows to help make sure that I eliminate drafts in the winter, and that really helps. Also helps me maintain the humidity better because, Okay, now this is more of a warning for do-it-yourselfers. I know right now somebody's going to try and argue things in the comments, and it's like, whatever. I don't care what other YouTubers or professional luthiers say about these methods. I recommend against doing them because this video is for the people who have dryness issues because they haven't been monitoring their guitars. The idea is if you ended up having these cracks happen, you're probably not going to monitor your guitar well enough to do these methods to repair the cracks, so I recommend against it. I've seen them go bad very fast. The first method, putting your guitar in a big plastic bag with some sponges. Do not do that. Do not do that. I've seen it go bad so many times. You are putting way too much humidity into the guitar way too fast. I'm of the belief you need to gradually bring everything back. The biggest issue is, let's say my hands are the soundboard of your guitar, and between my hands is where you have the crack. So things get dry, cracks apart. Now you do something where you humidify it and you're doing it too quick, that closes up, and then it closes up too tight where you can't get glue in. So you're sitting there with a guitar that's still broken. Or even worse, the sides don't line up. One side goes underneath the other, or what's even worse yet, I've seen it where presses so hard that you actually have the soundboard bulge up where the crack is. That's an absolute nightmare. That's pretty much the death sentence to your guitar. Because now you have to try and get the wood to dry back out. So we're back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and that's really taxing on your instrument. I am of the philosophy that these things need to be done gradually and in a controlled way. You need to monitor it very closely. There's another method that I still don't understand why people do this, but you put your guitar in the bathroom with the shower running. That's not the same as having it in a humidified environment. That's putting it in a steamy environment. Water is going to collect on the surface of the guitar. You're going to turn the shower off. The air is going to dry out again right away. So you're not really proving anything. You want to maintain that slightly elevated humid environment to get things to correct themselves. So that's another one where you might get the crack to close up, but then a day or two later it's just going to open up again because you're trying to do it much too fast, and you're also trying to use steam or mist rather than just trying to get the humidity level within the air more stable. So I recommend against both of these methods for do-it-yourselfers. I don't care if other professionals do it and they do a good job. Fine, good for you. Go right ahead. If you weren't monitoring well enough and your guitar got cracked, you're not going to monitor well enough to use either of those methods. Just please take it to a professional near you. Have them do it in a very controlled manner. Well, there's just my advice on how to properly maintain your guitar through winter. Other people may have other points of view on this. This is just, I have this discussion so many times through the winter. It's sad somebody shows up with a really nice guitar and they didn't realize they had it next to a heat register. They didn't realize how dry their apartment was, whatever happens. Or somebody at a guitar store really pushed a case humidifier on them, and they thought that's all that they needed, and now they're like, well, what's going on with my guitar? And it's just like, well, yeah, it just was too dry where you are. So anyways, like I said, I always recommend take it to a professional, have the repair done in a controlled manner, and if any questions or comments, you can leave it in the comments section or contact me directly. In the About section of my channel, you should find my contact information, and we'll see you next time.